She was dreaming of her name in lights.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Brila.
She was into fashion, into music.
She had over 5,000 followers on her social media.
The sky was the limit.
And she soon found someone to ride with her to the top.
This was the one person that she felt like she could be herself around.
They really bonded over their love for music.
Until the music went silent.
There is blood. It don't look good.
The bullet went through her ear.
It was sickening to the stomach.
Was she the victim of a fan whose obsession had gone too far?
The person claimed they'd been paid $5,000 to kill her.
Or had a romantic rival decided to settle the score?
Then she texted me and was like, basically, she's gonna beat my ass.
They were feuding and fighting over this young man.
You'll never compare to me.
When the truth comes out, dark secrets will surface.
He was also involved in another murder.
I don't know what it's steroids.
It's hard to be who you are in this world.
Whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing?
June 25th, 2020. It's a balmy Thursday morning in North Little Rock, Arkansas, a small city located just across the river from the state capital.
North Little Rock is across the river from Little Rock and has a population of about 65,000 people.
It's somewhat of a suburb of Little Rock, but with its own mayor and local government, its own entertainment district, its own school system.
At 9 a.m., while most of the city is still making their way into work, one North Little Rock couple is arriving at the police station.
That morning, the father and stepmother of a 17-year-old teenager, Brila Stone, went to the local police department to report her missing.
Yeah, we haven't seen her since yesterday.
We've been trying to call, but she's not answering the phone.
Their daughter has not returned home from the previous night, and the parents are extremely concerned and worried.
It was unusual for her to be gone without getting in contact with anyone to let them know where she was.
No, she does stay out late sometimes, all right, but she always comes back home.
Do you know any friends in particular she might be hanging out with last night?
No.
Her parents weren't sure where she went after getting out of school, and they were terrified that something had happened to her.
Being in that situation where you cannot get in contact with your child, I would not wish that feeling upon anyone.
They had a bad feeling. They knew something was wrong.
17-year-old Brila Stone was known for having a big personality.
Brila always stood out. She had that larger-than-life persona.
Brila would walk into a room and just light up the room.
Brila was fearless, too.
When she was a teenager, Brila came out as transgender.
She was assigned male at birth, but at a certain point, she realized this is not who I am.
While coming out wasn't easy, Brila was determined to wear her difference boldly.
Growing up in the South, when you're an outsider, people can look at you a little different. But that didn't matter to Brila.
She embraced her new identity, and it made her really happy that the way she looked on the outside now reflected the way she felt on the inside.
For Brila, being trans was more than an outward expression of her gender identity. It was walking in her truth.
For a 17-year-old to do this, it shows that Brila was a very courageous young woman.
And she remained courageous even in the face of adversity.
Not everyone accepted her transition. For certain people in her life, it was something they had a really hard time coming to terms with.
Even though she struggled for acceptance, Brila never questioned her decision. She knew she was meant to live as a woman.
At the end of the day, though, Brila was still a regular teenager.
She loved fashion, she loved hanging out with her friends, and she especially loved music.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Brila.
She would be online, on all of social media. That was her big thing.
Her dream was to be a singer, and as she began to express herself more and more, and she built up her confidence, her audience grew along with her. Before you know it, she had over 5,000 followers.
She had plans to actually pursue her dreams as an artist.
Just like any other 17-year-old, she had big dreams. She wanted to see her name in lights.
But fame wasn't the only thing that Brila was interested in.
Brila wanted to experience life as any other teenager. She wanted a social life. She wanted a dating life.
Brila had this desire to be in love, not as a trans woman, but as a woman.
Teenage years are challenging enough with trying to find your identity. And for a trans adolescent and teenager, it could be even more difficult.
When your gender is different from the sex that you were assigned, that's a lot for a 17-year-old to deal with.
There were some heartbreaks.
And in Brila's case, it was even more rejection because there were so many sides to Brila that people didn't understand.
But she refused to stop putting herself out there.
She went after what she wanted, and she believed she could have it, in spite of the rejection.
And when Brila met fellow high school student Trayvon Miller, it seemed like she finally found someone who accepted her for who she really was.
Hey.
Hey.
I've been watching your videos.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you're really talented.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. What you?
There was something about Trayvon Miller that really hit hard with Brila.
She and Trey had so much in common. They really bonded over their shared love for music.
Yeah, I actually make beats.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I make beats and...
Maybe you can make me some.
Yeah, I'll make you some, for sure.
This was one person that she felt like she could be herself around. She didn't have to have a facade.
He came from a tougher neighborhood and had a reputation for being a little bit of a bad boy.
He had some rough spots about him, but she accepted him, flaws and all.
In fact, in Brila's eyes, Trey's rough past made him that much more appealing.
This was someone who had been misunderstood at times, just like she had been.
He was strong. He wasn't gonna let anyone mess with her.
For her being in this society, being able to find someone that could protect her definitely becomes appealing.
Although she was only 17, she could see a future with her and Trayvon together.
But now, before her future can even begin, Brila has mysteriously disappeared.
She doesn't come home, and the parents are extremely concerned and worried because it's just not like their daughter.
When the missing persons report is handed over to detectives, they waste no time trying to track Brila down.
They started reaching out to all the hospitals and jails in the area.
They put out APBs.
Authorities throughout the entire Little Rock metro area were notified.
Law enforcement even appeals to the community for help.
They do a press conference announcing her disappearance and asking for any information.
But when a tip finally comes in, it's the last thing anyone wants to hear.
On June 25th in Sherwood, Arkansas, there was a 911 call that came through.
There was a body found.
There is blood. It don't look good.
"17-year-old Brila Stone was growing into a confident young trans woman with plans to take on the world.
Brila loved life, and a lot of people loved Brila as well for her vibrant personality.
Brila was into fashion, into music. She had big dreams.
She'd also been swept off her feet by a handsome classmate named Trayvon Miller.
It was love at first sight. she found someone who loved her for who she was, not for who she had to pretend to be.
Brila had high hopes for the relationship.
She could see a future with her and Trayvon together.
But now, just hours after Brila's parents reported her missing, a body has been discovered in the North Little Rock suburb of Sherwood, Arkansas.
On June 25th, 2:47 p.m., police get a call about an abandoned car that's left in an area near Sherwood.
Sherwood 911, what's the address emergency? I'm on the walking trail behind my house, and there's a car parked here.
It's a nice, quiet subdivision, so to see that abandoned car there was an issue for the neighbors.
But that's not what prompted this neighbor to call 911.
The caller said there was someone inside the vehicle who appeared to be experiencing some kind of emergency.
And there's a black woman in there. She's clumped down on the passenger side. There's blood in there, and she ain't moving. There is blood. It don't look good.
Police quickly respond to the scene.
What stood out the most for the detectives was an overwhelming smell of bleach.
It was almost sickening to the stomach.
The driver's side window was shattered, so they were able to get into the car to get a closer look at the victim.
It looked like the woman had been sitting on the driver's side and had slumped over into the passenger side.
From the appearance of the body, they knew right away she was not alive.
They also knew their victim was 17-year-old Brila Stone.
She matched the description of Brila.
The car was registered to Brila's mother, and Brila's ID was also found inside the vehicle.
There's no question how she died either.
They immediately knew that this wasn't a drug overdose or anything like that.
It didn't appear to be a random robbery either, since her purse was still there with nothing stolen.
It looked as if Brila had been shot at close range.
The bullet actually went through her ear to the other side and outside of the vehicle.
Based on the trajectory of the bullet, whoever pulled the trigger must have been inside the car with her.
Whoever killed Brila had to be in the passenger seat.
And they had tried hard to cover their tracks.
They start noticing discolored areas where it looks like blood had been wiped away.
The investigators suspected the killer poured bleach everywhere to get rid of the forensic evidence.
But the killer had missed something.
Investigators found a 9mm shell casing.
The discovery gave them a potential murder weapon to look for.
And outside the vehicle, investigators get another win.
They found a spot the killer must have missed when scrubbing the car down with bleach.
The killer made sure to clean the inside of the car as to not leave any forensic evidence, but there were a set of fingerprints left on the outside of the car.
There's no guarantee the prints belong to the killer, but detectives have them documented so they can find out for sure.
It was a long shot, but the police were not going to leave any stone unturned.
As the car is towed back to the crime lab for further analysis, detectives begin a canvass of the area.
The first thing that they wanted to know was, when did this crime occur? The forensics cannot help them at this point. They had to rely on old-fashioned detective work.
Detectives start with the homeowner who called 911.
The individual did not have any additional information to give the officers. He found the car, and that's all he knew.
A survey for any cameras or other evidence near the walking trail is also a dead end.
The walking trail was a rather popular place, but there's no cameras. There's no surveillance, so there's no way possible of finding out who could have been back there at that time.
However, knocking on the neighbors' doors does turn up a promising lead.
This neighborhood is known for walkers. People like to get out and explore their neighborhood.
And one of those individuals had been out and about the previous night.
One woman is able to give a little bit of information as she jogs in that area.
She said around 10 p.m., there was not a vehicle in sight on the trail.
It means it was either done overnight or it could have been done early in the morning before anyone would have even noticed a car there.
That's a wide gap.
Back at the station, detectives now have the difficult job of informing Brila's parents of their tragic discovery.
They had to bring her parents down to the police station so that they could identify Miss Brila.
It's one of the worst things a parent would even want to hear.
This is going to be the left arm. Okay, lift that forearm. Okay. Yeah. This is the right forearm.
They were able to identify her body by a rose-shaped tattoo.
This is a homicide.
That's
What I believe. Okay?
Her parents couldn't imagine anyone wanting to get that close to hurting her in that kind of way.
Who would do this to Brila? They had no clue.
For detectives, the lack of suspects is a frustrating start to their investigation.
They didn't know where to begin, and when the media picked up on this story, all of a sudden, they were under a microscope.
This particular case made not only local, but national headlines.
The fact that Brila was trans attracted a lot of attention online.
The media automatically jumped on this.
Was it yet another hate crime?
It definitely put a heightened sense of, we gotta get this right when it comes to the police department.
And amid the flurry of online activity, a suspect will emerge.
Check this out. They saw a social media post that made their jaws drop.
An individual said he had been paid $5,000 for the murder of Brila Stone.
Detectives investigating the shooting death of 17-year-old Brila Stone are struggling to figure out who would have wanted to kill the transgender teen.
They don't know who could have done this. They don't know how any of this could have happened.
But an early lead on social media may point them in the right direction.
Someone made a post saying they had been paid $5,000 to kill Brila.
The Instagram account was named Tappin' Season.
A transgender woman with a bounty over her head? Now that's something that the investigators wanted to look further into.
Digging deeper, detectives realize that the account has made multiple posts about Brila.
Maybe it was a social media follower, maybe it was a classmate, but there was no name on the profile or any indication of who it belonged to.
The police wanted to know who is behind these posts.
This led officers to secure a warrant for Instagram to turn over all of the information from this particular account.
When the results come in, they give detectives a name.
The account belonged to someone named Toby King.
Detectives were also able to pin Toby King's location in a rural area on the outskirts of Little Rock called Wrightsville.
On June 27th, 2 days after Brila's murder, police pick up 18-year-old Toby King and bring him in for questioning.
Toby denies knowing Brila. He denies even being a part of that Tappin' Season account.
Tell us about Tappin' Season.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, we know that isn't true.
The detectives bring in all the evidence of him actually being the person to make these posts.
We have receipts, Toby.
Every post from that account comes back to your cell phone.
Faced with the facts, Toby has no choice but to change his story.
Okay. It was supposed to be a joke.
Toby told detectives he saw a news story about the murder online.
He just made the account to troll Brila's supporters.
he created the post for attention.
A lot of kids on social media are looking for sensationalism. They're looking for that 15 minutes of fame, no matter what it could be.
You have this powerful tool in your hand, but unfortunately, some people still utilize those platforms for hate.
But is Toby telling the truth? Detectives push him for his whereabouts on the night of Brila's murder.
I didn't go anywhere, I swear.
Toby told the police that he was at home with his parents.
And when detectives follow up, his story appears to check out.
Toby's parents said, yes, he was here with us all night Wednesday.
They also confirmed that there was absolutely no way Toby could have committed this murder because he could not drive to the location because he did not have a car, let alone a driver's license.
You're free to go.
He was not the killer.
After releasing Toby King, detectives feel like they're back at square one. Until they get a visit from a classmate of Brila's named Veronica Tyler.
Thank you for coming in to talk to us. You have any information that can help us?
Brila had actually gotten to quite a sticky situation recently.
Veronica told detectives about how Brila had started dating Trayvon Miller.
This was the first time detectives had heard Trey's name.
She really liked him, and he liked her.
But Veronica says Brila had some competition.
She wasn't the only one he was with.
Trey was cheating.
He'd been messing with another girl named Regina.
According to Veronica, Brila had found out about it just 3 days before she was killed.
She was really upset.
Brila was heartbroken. This is now a love triangle.
A love triangle that had turned violent.
They had gotten into a physical altercation.
Punches were thrown.
Did it escalate to murder?
You'll never compare to me.
Detectives in North Little Rock, Arkansas have just learned that their murder victim, 17-year-old Brila Stone, was part of a love triangle involving her boyfriend Trayvon Miller and another classmate named Regina Cook.
Brila's friend Veronica told police the situation was really getting out of hand.
Brila found out that Trey was seeing Regina. She knew that Trey was not being honest about it. So Brila decided to confront Regina.
Hey, Regina. Brila, don't. No, you need to leave my man alone. He's not your man.
They started arguing.
He wants a real woman.
And it became physical.
You'll never compare to me. Yeah, keep walking.
Eventually, Regina left, but the issue definitely wasn't resolved.
Thank you for the information.
To detectives, it sounds like the rivalry was a ticking time bomb.
Regina immediately became a person of interest. Did she kill Brila to eliminate her competition?
That evening, police bring Regina in for questioning.
You understand anything you say can be used against you in court?
Regina makes it clear that she was definitely not a fan of Brila, but she had nothing to do with the murder.
She even told the police that Brila was the aggressor. She said that Brila had been harassing her ever since she found out about her and Trey.
Then she texted me and was like, basically, she's gonna beat my ass.
Could Regina have killed Brila because of the fight? These questions are now swirling. Investigators are wondering, was this a motive?
Based on Regina's body language, the detective thinks she's hiding something.
Detectives turned up the heat in questioning.
I don't believe you're being completely forthcoming, so I'm going to give it to you right now, point blank. You need to tell me everything.
Under pressure, Regina's story begins to shift.
Although Regina stood strong on not having anything to do with Brila's murder, she did express a suspicion that her boyfriend, Trey, may have had something to do with the murder.
Regina explains that Trey was deeply insecure about his relationship with Brila.
Trey considered himself to be straight, and he was worried what people might think if they found out he was dating a trans woman.
He said he didn't know that it was a boy and stuff like that. Well, I was like, well, you know, I wouldn't look at you any different.
Trey wanted to keep his and Brayla's love affair a secret.
He's trying to protect that bad boy image he's got.
But you can't. I mean,
he's got an image around here.
Everyone has secrets, and I mean, that was just his secret.
In the days leading up to Brayla's murder, Regina says that Trey seemed especially worried about his reputation.
He was calling her over and over. He seemed distraught about the whole situation.
I kept telling him, like, so what? There's a lot of people in Little Rock that's gay.
Trey was so worked up that Regina says she was concerned for his safety.
It's kind of like sound like suicidal, so.
What do you mean by that?
Like, his life is over, like, basically like his life is over, he's like, he don't know what he's gonna do.
Despite Trey's apprehension, Regina says Brayla was pushing for them to make things public.
Brayla wanted the truth of their relationship to come out so they could be like a normal couple.
Brayla was not standing for it. She said, why not tell the world, be yourself? But that was a decision for Trey to make. Trey could have taken this many ways, but what he took, it was hard.
You need to man up, Trey. I'm tired of this.
Damn it, Brila, you just don't understand.
She didn't want to be hidden away like she was something to be ashamed of. And she definitely didn't want Trey out there seeing other women.
Brayla had threatened to out him if Regina continued to be in the picture.
Why can't we just keep it in private?
He doesn't want to be outed. He doesn't want people to think that he's gay.
This could ruin your life in a teenager's mind.
Regina admits that Trey had become so desperate, he started contemplating the unthinkable.
What did he say exactly?
Like, you don't have to handle her, like, have her come to the house. And I'm thinking, like, they was like, they gonna talk, or he was gonna talk out, like, talk to her.
Did he ever mention that he was going to kill her?
He probably did.
No problem, okay? It's now or never, okay?
I would say he did.
Was it just something he was saying? Or was it something that he was gonna really follow through on?
I didn't think he was capable of anything like that.
Kids talk, kids make up things. Was this just another thing that he was saying? Was he serious? You never know.
The detective isn't ready to take Regina's account at face value just yet. First, he asks her if she has an alibi for the night Brayla was killed.
She said she was with two friends that night and they would be able to corroborate her story.
Police contact Regina's friends, and her alibi checks out.
With Regina ruled out, detectives next decide to see if there's any truth to her pointing the finger at Trey for Brayla's murder.
They want to find out more about Trey.
And when they pull up his record, they make a shocking discovery.
Got something.
For an 18-year-old kid, Trey had a breathtaking criminal history.
His first crime stemmed when he was 14 years old.
He was charged with criminal murder.
North Little Rock detectives have just been told that their victim's boyfriend, Trayvon Miller, was doing all he could to keep their relationship under wraps.
When detectives sat down with Regina, she pointed the finger at Trey. She said he was ashamed of being in a relationship with a trans woman, and Brila was threatening to expose him.
And now detectives have discovered this isn't the first time Trey has been accused of murder.
In April of 2016, Trey and one of his friends were arrested in connection to a very serious crime.
They made the decision to go and rob a young man that one of the boys was working with.
The robbery didn't go as planned.
Y'all got that weed for me, huh? You know we got it, bro.
They went and sat in the car of this young man to sell him weed.
But they had no intention of actually making the sale.
Give me your money.
One of the young men shot the young boy in the neck.
Although Trey did not pull the trigger, he was involved in this crime as a juvenile.
The teenagers were arrested and charged with capital murder.
They were staring down life in prison, so Trey decided to cut a deal.
In exchange for his testimony, he was able to plead guilty for aggravated assault.
He was back on the streets in no time.
In comparing the two crimes, detectives noticed some shocking parallels.
That previous murder, the shooter is in the passenger seat, passenger turns, shoots the driver. Same scenario as with Brila, and what's even more similar was the bleach.
Just like with Brila's car, the prior victim's car was doused in bleach. It was a detail of the case that had never been released to the public.
The discovery has detectives more convinced than ever that Trey played a role in Brila's death. But before they can bring him in for questioning, they receive an unexpected visit from a young woman named Riley Cobb and two of her family members.
When Riley heard what happened, she knew she needed to come forward.
Thank y'all for coming in.
Riley had been friends with Brila for years, long before she transitioned, and still referred to Brila as he or him.
Always been around him, known him pretty much your whole life. Yeah.
Riley says that she had actually been with Brila on June 23rd, a day before she had gone missing.
They were commiserating over the fact that Trey was cheating on her.
He acts like he's embarrassed to be seen with me.
He was calling about how he was the boy, how he was treating him.
About how he was treating him.
Just forget Trey. Let him and Regina have their thing.
No, I want to hear that from him.
They came up with a plan. Let's go and get the answers from Trey himself.
She and Brila had actually gone to confront Trey about his involvement with this other young lady.
When they showed up, Riley says Trey tried to avoid them.
Trey.
I'm looking scared away.
Trey did not want to discuss this with Brila at the time.
But as Brila continued to plead with him for a conversation, Riley says Trey seemed to soften.
All right, okay, calm down.
That's when Trey decided, you know what, Brila, I'm gonna answer all your questions.
Trayvon said he owed him a talk.
An arrangement was made for them to talk about it later that evening.
Come pick me up from my house at 11 p.m., okay? We'll talk then.
She thought finally she's gonna get her answers to what is going on with this lover's triangle. Are you gonna be with me? Are you going to be with Regina?
Riley says later that night, Brila drove to Trey's house alone.
She talks to Brila on the phone the whole time while she's waiting for him to show up.
He was outside his house waiting on him to come.
When Brila saw Trey come towards the car, she said, I had to call you back. Here he comes.
I'll talk to you later.
Did he say Trayvon was getting in the car?
Yeah, and that's the end.
About what time was that evening?
Like around 11, 20 something.
But according to Riley, when she tried to call Brila later that night, she couldn't get through.
She wanted to check on her friend, but Brila wasn't answering.
Yeah, nothing was going through.
When you called, did it go straight to voicemail or just?
Like, it was ringing, but nothing.
She called over and over and over again, but Brila never picked up.
I just never heard from him.
Never heard from him again.
Detectives in North Little Rock, Arkansas, believe that Trayvon Miller murdered his 17-year-old girlfriend, Brila Stone, after she threatened to expose their relationship.
Brila was a transgender female, and Trey seemed to be afraid of how his relationship with her would be perceived if it got out.
Damn it, Brila, you just don't understand.
He presented himself as a straight male and didn't want to be confronted with the fact that his sexuality may have been more complex than that.
Police were convinced Trey killed Brila. They just needed proof.
Now a new witness has revealed that Brila went to confront Trey over their relationship on the night she died.
That was the last time that anyone would hear from Brila again.
It finally places Trey right in the car with Brila.
It was more than enough to go and pick him up and have him charged with murder.
Arkansas police arrest Trey at his parents' house.
He was taken into custody without incident.
Tell us what happened, Trey. How did things go so bad?
Trey refused to talk. He declined to offer any answers.
Trey is no stranger to crime. He knew it's time to lawyer up, and that's exactly what he did.
I have nothing to say to y'all. Give me my attorney.
Without a confession, the investigators aren't sure if their case is strong enough to convince a jury.
Everything was circumstantial, so they got to work trying to fill in the gaps.
They got a warrant to go to his home where he lived with his parents.
A search of Trey's room provides investigators with the physical evidence they need.
Officers did not find any murder weapon, but they did find plenty of ammunition.
A 9mm case of ammunition was found.
That fit the murder weapon.
Detectives also interviewed Trey's parents.
They said that he had an obsession with guns, and they would actually have to hide their guns.
His parents stopped short of saying that he could have killed Brila, but they did call his character into question.
His parents said that he had a thing for being in the streets, and that came with a lot of trouble.
As news of Trey's arrest spreads, other potential witnesses begin to emerge.
They interviewed friends. They found information that could tie him to the crime.
Several of Trey's friends heard him say he wanted to kill Brila.
He was just saying that he was going to kill him. Basically. He was saying he was going to kill him. And we were telling him that that's not right, you should do that, blah, blah, blah. And then he started being obsessive about it. You heard him on the phone saying they wanted to hurt your life. Do you remember that? You know, like, I can't do this no more. This stuff is just crazy. I can't believe he did this to me.
Trey said it plain and clear. I'm finna kill him. It's like that.
But at the time, his friends didn't take it seriously.
But it didn't stop there.
He was suicidal before he decided to kill Brila.
He felt like down, like he felt hopeless, like he wanted to kill himself.
Did he ever say he wanted to kill himself?
Yeah, he said that he wanted to kill himself.
He is at the point that he's willing to do anything so that he is not outed, so that society doesn't take him as a weak man.
All the other friends that have heard him say that, the only thing I could just think about is the guilt that a person would have. Man, I wish I would have said something.
Another damning piece of evidence comes to light when detectives speak to the manager of the restaurant where Trey worked.
When police interviews Trey's boss, a lot of information unfolds.
Trey was actually scheduled to work the day after Brila was killed, but he didn't show up for that shift.
Trey called his boss, oddly enough, to tell her, I've done something really bad. I've messed up this time.
He tells her that he messed up, and he messed up so bad it may be a long time until he does come back, if ever.
The boss was shocked. Trey was a good employee.
When she asked Trey what happened, all he said was, "Watch the news."
After Trey hung up, his boss immediately turned on the news.
That's when she discovered that there was a murder of a transgender woman in Little Rock, Arkansas.
She puts two and two together, especially at the realization that Trey wasn't at work the night before.
To detectives, the manager's statement is almost as good as a confession. And another key piece of evidence arrives when police receive a report from the crime lab.
At the crime scene, CSI had managed to pull a fresh set of prints from the hood of Brila's car.
Trey's fingerprints come back as a match.
Now, the police are able to go and piece everything together, and they start charging.
Charged with capital murder again, Trey now faces the possibility of the death penalty.
At this point, the detectives and the prosecutors thought they knew exactly what happened between him and Brila.
Regina and Trey and Brila had a lover's triangle that was coming to a head.
She was threatening that if Trey didn't cut things off with Regina, she would expose their relationship to the world.
Trey wanted to keep their love affair a secret.
He didn't want this side of himself put out into the world.
He's thinking in his mind that there's no way that he can be gay or no way that he can be dating a trans woman because that is completely unacceptable in Trey's world. So he begins to think about what can be done to prevent the outing to happen.
It's hard to be who you are in this world. It doesn't matter, gay, straight, you could love everybody, you could love yourself. You could be so different outside of what other people would accept. In Brila's case, Brila loved every part of herself and desired someone to love that back, but who were not ready for that. Trey was living in a fear that someone else would find out about the things that he did love, and he murdered her to hide it.
On the night of June 24th, 2020, Trey lured Brila to his house under the guise of talking about their relationship.
Trey met her outside of his parents' house.
Let's take a ride.
Brila is thinking that now is the time that she's gonna get her answers.
But Trey had other plans in mind.
They drove to a secluded area where there's a walking trail.
They go to the walking trail, and that's when Trey's plan began to unfold.
Instead of talking, it appeared that things got way out of hand.
What's your deal? I want you to stop lying to everyone about us.
If you say something now,
What?
Brila threatens to tell people that he's dating a trans woman. And that's a trigger for Trey.
He went into a panic.
He felt that killing Brila was his only way out.
In the middle of their argument, Trey drew his gun.
Whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Trey fired the shot, point blank rage. The shot came out, splattered the blood on the window, shattered the window, killing Brila instantly.
After that, Trey fled the scene.
Investigators believed he returned later that night with the bleach to try and wipe his fingerprints.
They also believed that he had moved Brila's body around.
He moved her to clean inside of the vehicle.
But he couldn't stop the truth from coming out.
The prosecution had a slam dunk case against him. He was going down for this.
Realizing that there was no way that he would be able to get out of this. And with so much evidence and testimony, he made the decision to plea out.
He gets 50 years in prison.
Although the case is finally closed, the tragic loss of Brila is still felt today.
Justice was served in this case, but years so late. So late. How many times that this has happened in our society? The system failed him. The system failed him. There was so much that could have been done and they didn't do it. It's like the system just said, it's just another day. But that day could have been changed. It could have saved Brila. It could have saved so much grief.
Now we have to deal with families hurting.
No one wins. His penalty cannot bring back her life.
Brila accepted herself, flaws and all, everything about her. Whereas Trey, he was living in fear. Our kids today care more about social media, about their reputations, how they're seen, how they want to be seen, than about someone else's life.
Trey allowed his hidden identity to be the very thing that was downfall. The very thing that he was trying to protect is now being exposed to the whole world.
And Brila's memory endures as a warning against the horrible dangers of hate and prejudice.
2020 and 2021 were the highest years on record for transgender deaths. Most of that was Black and Latina trans women.
That's just a sign that there's so much work that needs to be done to protect those individuals.
Transgender women have the right to be able to go through society with their hopes and dreams, just like any of us.